Greetings, people who tolerate my videos. I did an accordion bagpipe video, but I spoke so poorly. It was just done so poorly that I scrapped it, and I'm trying to redo it here. It's hard to deliver this message because it's somewhat complicated. But before I do, I wanted to do a correction. In my first two videos, I mentioned that my Italian grandfather lived to be 57. Well, that's not true. I spoke incorrectly and I apologize. I went to the cemetery last week. I went to the cemetery where my Italian grandfather and my Italian grandmother, that would be his first wife, and my sister are buried. They're all buried there. And I looked down at the gravestone and I saw that he had lived to be only 54. 54. He didn't even make it to 57. So I spoke wrongly. I made a boo-boo. Anyway, and the other thing is, the whole reason why I have an accordion, my Atlas accordion, is because one day I was on the internet watching YouTube videos and I stumbled onto a channel, a YouTube channel called Anna, and that's her name. She's a pretty young German girl and she plays the accordion and people really, really like her videos. Well, I liked her videos so much that I thought, you know what, I want to have an accordion again. Because when I was 20 years old in 1973, that was 38 years ago, I sold my accordion. I had a Yorio accordion. It was a real fancy one, and I sold it. So for 38 years, I hadn't had an accordion until I heard Anna, and I was inspired. I went on Craigslist, found one, and I picked up my son because he's my good luck guy, and we drove far away and we bought it for $75. So shortly after I bought it, I noticed that it had a violin register, in other words a switch on a treble side, and that switch activated two middle reeds. Alright, the first middle reed set was dry. In other words, it was tuned dry. They might call it concert pitch. Sometimes you'll hear that word. The second reed set was tuned about 5 cents sharp. It was just a little bit sharp. And I noticed, and this is why I'm doing this video, I noticed early on that it sounded like a bagpipe. Now, over the years, I've been trying to get an accurate bagpipe sound with the accordion, but I have failed because it's very difficult. But I still want to go over this process because it's interesting, and my back is sore and I'm not ready to pick up that accordion yet. So I'm referring to mainly the common bagpipe that we see here in America. Like if you go to the Celtic festivals, it's called the Great Highland bagpipe, or it's something very similar. And it has the drone sound, the and they say the drone is in A. They say that, all right? And it would be written with A's, but the problem is, and this is weird, they are tuned so high, for some weird reason, they're tuned so high that it's actually B-flat tone. It's actually a B-flat tone, or tones, plural, that you're hearing in the drone. Alright, they say it's A, but it's actually going to be a B-flat. And I know because I go on the internet and I look all around and I find bagpipers and bagpipe bands, and I play my B-flat harmonica along with it, and it's right there at B-flat. Now, we'll hold that thought. And then the Great Highland bagpipe has the melody tones, the chanter tones, if you can see that there. And, of course, they tell you that it's the key of A, but in reality, those tones are written like this, if you can see that, starting with G4, and go on up to A5, all right? And actually, they are the tones of the key of D, or the D major scale. That's how they're written. See, written, but the sound, the actual sound, are these tones, if you can see that, and they're going to sound like they're in the key of E flat major. I hope I'm speaking correctly, because this is the second time I'm doing this video. I want to try to make it clear so you know what's going on with the bagpipe, and see how that relates to the accordion. Now, when you ask a piper what keys the pipe in, he's almost always going to say A. That's my experience. But what he really means is, he doesn't mean A major scale. He's kind of referring to, suggesting the A Mixolydian mode or scale. That's kind of what he's referring to. All right? Now, hold that thought. When the piper says A, you got to hold that thought. Because if you take the tones of the D major scale, these are the tones. You see, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, sharp, D. Okay? Now, that's a scale. Now, to make a mode, okay, to build or create a mode, and this is historical, this has been going on for hundreds of years, you can say, well, you know what? I want to start a mode, or you could call it a scale, but it's a mode, on A instead of D, but I want to use these same tones. Okay? All right? If you do that, if you start that scale on A instead of D with these same tones, then you get this. You get that right there. And that is why they say A scale, or they say A Mixolydian. But I'm going to pull the paper away and explain to you that that is actually incorrect. And this terminology, this whole system of words that's been used for hundreds of years is inaccurate. It works, people use it. This bad habit goes on for hundreds of years, and people don't care, nobody cares. They just talk the way they talk. So I address that in my book, and once again, don't go out and buy it. If you're near central Pennsylvania, near Harrisburg or Hershey, just stop by. I'll give you a copy. I'm just trying to say that I wanted to clean up this stuff. I cleaned up a lot of stuff, and let's get back to the subject at hand. All right, so you have the tones of the D major scale, but you're starting your new scale or mode on A instead of D, A down here, and this is what you get. And the pipers, and other people too, will call it, they will say, oh, that's A Mixolydian. That's what they call it. All right, now I showed you that. But that is just really not true. The scale, as I showed you, the scale that they use on the bagpipe. Now, even though it sounds in B flat, it's written in A, so we're talking A here, okay? We're talking A. Though it sounds in B flat, we're using A. Now, that's actually the Mixolydian of D. It's the Mixolydian of D, of the D major scale, because you took the D major scale, you started your mode on A, and you got this, and that's why I call it the Mixolydian of D, because that is actually what it is. Or you could call it the dominant scale, because what happens is your seventh tone in that scale is an interval of a minor 7 from the root or tonic, and that's how you get your dominant kind of feel. And I did a video on dominant chords, so you kind of have an idea what the dominant means. You should have an idea. Okay, you got that? So now, I think that's a better way to explain it than I did previously. Previously it was choppy. Then I showed you that there are, on a normal accordion, not like a super fancy special made accordion. You know, a special order accordion doesn't count. This is just a regular accordion. If you had an accordion that could have all possible bass register combinations, you would have these combinations to select from. And you're not going to have all these. You're only going to have sometimes 1, 2, maybe 5, maybe 7. But here's the possible, all possible. All right? Now, on my accordion, as I mentioned before several times, I don't have all possible. I have the alto tenor combination, and I have the alto contralto, tenor, bass combination, which I've showed you in my reed recognition videos. So this is what I have. Now, to get, back to the bagpipe, to get a good drone sound on the accordion, to try to somewhat emulate or sound like the bagpipe, you would look at your selection, all right, the complete selection, and you would likely, depending on your accordion and the quality of reeds, you would likely choose the register that activates the contralto, tenor, and bass reed sets. Okay? Because your alto is going to give you an A3, your tenor is going to give you an A3, and your bass is going to give you an A2. And you say, well, why is that so good? Because on the traditional bagpipe tunings, all right, you see here you have your A3, and your A2. And this is my favorite tuning, and also it's the Great Highland commonly uses this top tuning. So you see, this is what they generally use, and this is what you can select for your drone. Now you see I have notes here. Your bass, your drone tones will be correct, all right? But your chords will be weak because only your contralto reed set will play chords. All right? So for this challenge, I've had this challenge for years, to try to get an accordion or multiple accordions to sound like bagpipes. You would likely select this reed set combination for your drone. But since your chords would be weak here, okay, weak, you might want to go to the register selection that I have on my accordion, which has the alto, contralto, tenor, bass. Okay? So you get your bass is close on this, and it has chords. See, I note there it has chords. All right? But actually the bass here now, in relation to the chords, might be too strong. So to wrap it up without taking, all day, the point is, I think you need multiple accordions. You need to get one accordion, I would think, because I don't know anybody who has an accordion, to play the drone tones, all right, to play those drone tones, and with possibly this register selection, and then find out which accordions have nice chanter or tones that you can play the chords with, the melody with on the right hand. So I think the key to the getting the accordion to sound like a bagpipe really nicely is to use multiple accordions. And that's the whole deal. It's a compromise. You have to compromise with not only your tones, but you have to compromise the balance of the tone to try to get it to sound like a bagpipe. Okay, I hope that was clear. I know it's a little more clear than last time. So in my next video, instead of using the key of A or B flat, instead of using the key it's written in or the key it actually sounds in, okay, because of the sharps and flats, I'm not going to use that key. Okay, I'm going to switch to the really, really easy version in the key of G. I got this on the internet. Key of G. It's real simple. And even though it has the sharp signature here, which I drew in, you won't be playing any sharps on here. It's really easy. So I'll play that just to give you an idea of what I went through during this challenge, this process. And then I will use these chords. I will use these combinations here. Looks a little goofy, but it's going to be a D bass with every chord, because that's going to emulate the drone. And I know it's going to be crappy because there's only one accordion. It's an inexpensive accordion, but it's going to give you a starting point. You say, you know what? I have a buddy with an accordion. Oh, I have a buddy, two buddies. and I have a girlfriend, she has an accordion, and we're going to get together, we're going to figure this out. We're going to be the first persons on the internet to do a song and really make it sound sweet, kind of like a bagpipe. That's the challenge. So you see here I have a G chord with a D bass, D chord, D bass, etc., etc. And I'll play this on my next video. As soon as my back feels good, I'll strap on that accordion and play it. And then I think you'll have a clear picture of the accordion bagpipe challenge. And you'll see how we compromise. That's it. Sorry it took too long. Thanks for watching. And maybe we'll see you again. Good night.